here, so particularly these bullet points here. Um, so when people say, well, what exactly, like what aspects of a health plan are not or historically been inequitable between behavioral health benefits and all other benefits within a plan? Well, those kind of things have been things like annual lifetime dollar limits. So now the numbers, I'm making up the numbers, but just as a way of example. So historically, you might see a $1 million annual cap on medical expenses, on all medical expenses. But if you ended up in let's say you had two admissions to a psychiatric hospital for psychiatric inpatient treatment or a general hospital psychiatric unit, or you had multiple instances of inpatient detoxification and addiction rehabilitation treatment, which I'm sure, as you guys are aware, can be very costly. That could be I don't know why I'm trying to draw with this. So that could be like 100,000 caps. In other words, 1 million for hospital care if you have cancer, which by the way isn't nearly enough, versus 100,000 for acute care for behavioral health. And again, that those dollars may sound like a lot, but a psychiatric inpatient stay or detoxification be $10,000 a day, easy in our current cost. So other things like financial requirements. You can't charge a $20 copay to go see your primary care physician, and then a $50 copay to see an LCSWC for therapy. Okay. You can't have 90 days of hospital treatment on your plan and then only 30 days for psychiatric or inpatient detoxification or addiction rehabilitation treatment. Does that make sense? Um, and so you can't have a network of 100 providers for primary care and then 10 providers for behavioral health care, as an example. You can't have, and this one is what gets really dicey, and I'm sure you recall this from the article that Patrick Kennedy and Rosalind Carter wrote together. This one may be the diciest because it can be the hardest to quantify. But the way the legislation was written was you cannot have stricter medical clinical requirements to qualify for insurance coverage for a particular treatment than you do for other forms of medicine. In other words, you can't have stricter criteria for an inpatient hospitalization for a psychiatric issue than you do for uh, for treatment for physiological injury or illness. So we say, well, that can sound pretty hard to quantify. Well, you're right, and that's why, and that's kind of the part of one of the primary points of that article that Miss Carter and Patrick Kennedy wrote. So, so administrative requirements. So we were talking about before about the physician referral. So in other words, if you don't require or if you require let me state it a different way. If you require a physician referral form, remember the whole process we were talking about earlier, you can't require a physician referral form to see an LCSWC for therapy and then not require it to see a dermatologist, as an example. Now, technically, you can do both if you're not, if it's within the regulatory acceptability of the patient bill of rights, but you can't require that for behavioral health services and then not require it for other services like dermatology as an example.